everybody, welcome back to the next part in my dialing in series, and I'm really excited about this one. This is going into another new model that we received with the 2.9 firmware update. And today what I'm looking at is the Rochester Comp, which is a model of the Ashly CLX-52. I want to make sure I get those numbers and letters right in the model. The Ashly CLX-52 Compressor, and from what I understand, this was created in conjunction with Billy Sheehan. This is a compressor that he is quite famous for using. I've never used one of these in real life, but I was really excited about this because, as most of my viewers know, I really love the LA Studio Comp, and I use it in a very subtle glue type fashion at the end of my signal chain on 98% of the things I do. And I've done many videos about that in the past. But I was thinking with the Rochester Comp, as you're going to see when we go over to HX Edit, it's a lot more customizable, and you can dial it in a much sort of deeper fashion, let's call it, than the LA Studio Comp, which has some more, shall we say, fixed values as far as attack and release and a ratio and whatnot. Somewhat fixed, that are, you know, kind of variable as we adjust the gain reduction. But we don't have quite as much control over it. So this was really exciting to think maybe, just maybe, we could have possibly replace the LA Studio Comp at the end with the Rochester Comp, or at least just have another flavor that we could put there that might be interesting, okay? So let's do this. Let's go over and take a look at HX Edit and see what we have first, and then we'll do some comparisons. So here we are over at HX Edit, and I've just thrown together a very quick patch using the placator dirty, not set super distorted, but kind of nice broken up, slightly overdriven tone into a greenback 25 cabinet, probably my favorite cabinet with the 121 ribbon mic, and typical stuff, you know, the stuff from my template, right? Which I haven't updated yet to bring this back 650 hertz. I got to do that, but I'm just going to leave this for now. This is fine. It's not really about that. I have the delay turned off, and there's a subtle bit of room reverb here. Just to give it some life. And nothing special with the EQ, just a low cut at 100 hertz and a high cut at 12 kilohertz. That's it, so nothing else. But what I've done is I've set up 3 snapshots. I've set up one that's called No Comp, one that's called LA Studio Comp, which is going to bring in the LA Studio Comp at comparable settings to what I would normally use it as. And then we have the Rochester Comp snapshot. This got moved from, off of 0 dB. And this is what we're going to look at first as the controls here, but then we're going to compare and A/B the sound of this used in the typical way I would use it with the LA Studio Comp. So we'll see what happens. It should be quite interesting, I think. So let's go over the controls first. We have gain, threshold, ratio, attack, release, level, knee, and mix. Quite a difference from the LA Studio Comp, where we have peak, reduction, gain, the ability to go between compress and limit, emphasis, and mix, and level. I'm not going to go through these again. I've done many videos about those functions, but let's just go back and talk a little bit about all of the different functions here. I've also done videos in the past, very recently actually, really going back over. I did a video recently about the peak reduction meters. Go check that out, and I'll try to remember to link to that in this video. And I go in depth about the different controls and what they do. I don't want this to go back and be about that again. You can go watch that video though. So for this we have a gain, which from what my understanding is the input gain, what we're going to put into it. It's not going to really affect, as far as I'm concerned, and in my use of it, the tonality of the compressor. But if we crank that up, it will hit the compressor harder. So we'd want to set that kind of first. But I think it comes up with a value of plus 3 dB. I just set it back to 0 because I was level matching and whatnot. And it's fine, I think, here. So to my ears, it was working perfectly well. So we'll leave that input gain at 0 dB. The threshold, obviously, we have to set this to know, you know, at what point the compressor is going to kick in and actually start doing something, right? I have it at minus 13.8, but if I had this up at plus 22, it's probably not even going to be doing anything. So we want to make sure, and that's the beauty of the new gain reduction meters on our physical Helix unit as well. We can actually see how much gain reduction we're getting, which is nice. The ratio I set at 4:1. That seems to be a nice, I don't like to slam things with compression. And this is the thing again, you know, so many folks, as I've talked about it many times, say, you shouldn't put compression at the end. you know, because it ruins the sound, it ruins your time-based effects and all this. And it's like, that's such a blanket statement that could be true or could be completely wrong. I mean, it all depends on how you have that compressor set. If I have that compressor set in a way that is extremely subtle, just for the little bit of glue, like I said it makes no difference whether it's after the time-based effects. It also has to do with how big your time-based effects are, right? So I've talked about that many times, but anyways, we would want to watch that we're setting this in a way that isn't going to destroy those things, and that's what we're doing today. So the ratio at 4:1, attack I'm going to leave at 10 milliseconds. That's kind of my preferred attack time, so that some of the pick transients still get through and it's not clamping down so instantaneously on the pick attack, right? Because this here, we can set this to as low as 0.1 milliseconds, which is really going to take away a lot of that initial transient off of our pick attack, which may be what you want. Maybe you're playing some funk style stuff or some country where you want that really squashed down, right? So the ranges though, let's go back to the ranges here. The ratio on this goes all the way from 1:1 all the way up to 35:1 and then even infinity to 1, okay? So like I said, I'm gonna leave mine at 4:1. As we get below the 7:1 ratio, we can even go in 0.5 increments, but let's go back to 4. The attack time we can set anywhere from 0.1 milliseconds all the way up to 20 milliseconds, so we're gonna go in the middle, 10 milliseconds. Release, the lowest we can go on it is 100 milliseconds, which is fine by me because that's a lot of times where I kind of set it. Sometimes I go 50 milliseconds, but the 100 is going to work. So this also goes all the way up to 3 seconds. So a really long release time. We're not going to use it for that. The level control is just basically going to be like our makeup gain. I would use it as that. So if I'm getting 2 dB of compression, I would probably want to raise this 2 dB so that we're at kind of unity gain with the effect on and off. We're going to actually hear what the effect is doing, not just a boost or cut in volume. Now the knee is one that maybe some folks aren't familiar with. And really the knee is just how quickly and how abruptly, maybe is a better way to say it, we transfer from a non-compressed sound into a compressed sound. So instead, the knee being, because if we have the compression come up and then chop, we'd have a line where it comes up and then comes across and we'd have like a point here, versus if we soften the knee, it's more of a curved approach, right? So it looks more like a knee that has a bend in it, right? And it's going to be more of a soft transition versus an abrupt transition from non-compressed to compressed, okay? So in my understanding, as we turn this up, it should soften the knee. That's going to be a thing that a lot of folks may not even notice. It's going to be a more subtle thing and probably not one of the things you'd worry about. In my understanding, the Ashly compressor to begin with is somewhat of a soft knee compressor. So I'm going to leave that at 0 and just leave it. Now, mix we could also play around with to let some of our dry unaffected signal through. Like if we set this to 50%, something that's kind of known as New York style compression. This is used a lot on drums when the drums are slamming with like, let's say a compressor that's really squashing, and you let some of the unaffected sound through and mix it with that squash sound. It gives a really powerful sound. I like to do that sometimes with compression too. So we can go, you know, if I turn this down all the way, I'm just getting 100% direct signal and no mix of the compression at all. Here it would be 50-50, and here it would be completely compressed without any of the non-compressed signal. Okay, so that's the controls, and what I decided on for my, you know, sort of typical settings that I would like. The threshold was at -13.8. That's going to have to change depending on what you're inputting into it, though, and that'll really have to do a lot with how high is my channel volume, how much output is my amp or cab putting out into it, or any of these effects, right? The harder we hit the front end of this, the less we're going to have to bring the threshold down to get gain reduction. And I hope that makes sense. So for this setting and this particular situation, I went to -13.8 because it gave me somewhere in the vicinity of 2 to 3 possibly dB of gain reduction, okay? The ratio I went 4:1, attack 10 milliseconds, release 100 milliseconds, level. I made up the level because I was in and around 2 dB of compression, right? And the knee at 0 and the mix at 100%. So here's the sound. I'm gonna go to my snapshot 1, take a look up here as I play, with no compression at all. kick in the Rochester compression. Do you hear the very subtle squish there? No compression? Compression. I'm really liking it. Tons of character in this. It really gives that nice glue that I wanted, and what I love about it is the flexibility of changing the parameters in a very small way, right? So if I'm hearing something that I don't like, I can change that up. Maybe I want to bring my ratio down slightly, go to 3:1 instead. You know, just little changes that we can now make. I settled here, and those are going to be subtle, but sometimes subtle is important, right? When we're working on a mix or trying to get something to sit in the mix properly. One thing I would possibly do with this, bring the mix down to 50% maybe. Hear what that sounds like. More dry signal coming through now. Compare that to no compression. I really like that. That it just gives even a subtler approach. But and again, listen on a good set of headphones or a good set of speakers, because these are subtle things, and a lot of it might even just be the player feeling the difference, where there's that little bit of squish there. Because I changed the mix, that volume is going to be a little bit higher. Let's go back to 100%. I'm really liking it. Now let's compare that to the LA Studio Comp. So here's the LA Studio Comp. Back to the LA Studio Comp, and no comp. And both are set to get just around in between 2 and 3 dB of gain reduction, okay? So, again, like I said, it's subtle stuff, but I think this is one of the most important tools we could have to really add that glue to our sound. Now, what about if we were to put the Rochester compressor up in front of the amp where a lot of folks like to use it as well? And I'll turn off the compression at the end here. I would likely use similar settings to this anyways. I'm still getting about maybe 1 dB of gain reduction there. Bring this down a little bit more. That's more like in the 3 dB range. Okay, so it really depends on where you want that. That's with it before. I like the glue that it gives at the end. All right. So hopefully you guys could kind of hear those differences. I am really excited with the Rochester Comp, actually. Like I said, I love the fact it's so tweakable, and it has a lot of character, a lot of that nice gooey glue sound to it. I can see why Billy Sheehan really likes this model. This is amazing, and a huge tip of the hat to the folks at Line 6 for doing such an amazing job on this. I'm at the point where, you know, even though I haven't used the original one, I assume they've done an incredible job of modeling it, because they've done such a great job of everything else. But whatever they've done with it, whether it's exactly like the original or not, it works and it sounds really good. So this is definitely another tool I'm going to use in my toolkit to throw possibly at the end of the chain and be able to tweak a little bit more than, say, the LA Studio Comp, which isn't going anywhere, mind you. I do love that compressor, but it's always great. The more tools we have, the more we can shape our sound. So I hope you guys enjoyed that look at the Rochester Comp. If you haven't updated to 2.9, we're actually 2.91 now, please do. It's great. I haven't had any issues at all. And some really wonderful new features. So yeah, that's great. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Check out my stuff on Line 6 Marketplace too. I have a lot of presets available on there that I've been getting some great feedback on. I really appreciate everybody's support in all of that as well. It kind of helps me to keep doing what I'm doing here. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Like the video, share it if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell notification so you see when I put new videos up. And I'll be back soon, very soon, with some more content. Thanks so much again for your time, guys, and we'll talk very soon. Ciao for now.